Oops. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I forget to turn on the right overlay before the show begins. Occasionally. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Terrifying Thursday. Yes, we return once again for the second time this week to the wonderful world of off-brand TED Talks. And I thought I might as well make it a theme week this week. For those of you that weren't around on Monday, I had an ambush TED Excellence. I was bored and inspired. You'll have to look back in the library for that one. And it was on masculinity. It was called The Straitjacket of Masculinity. And oddly enough, that TEDx talk had been deleted from the TEDx YouTube channel at some point briefly after I acquired it. So it's an exclusive, everyone. You can't find it anywhere else, at least not right now. But yeah, I had this other one sort of sitting around. And I thought, well, it was like International Women's Day or week or whatever this week, right? So why not counter that or underscore it by looking at arguments for men being flawed or such. And so whereas the first TEDx this week was The Straitjacket of Masculinity, today we'll be looking at, is masculinity killing men? Well, as we know, men do die on a regular basis, so there might be something to that theory. But before we get into that theory, whatever it is, who is joining me on this wonderful Thursday evening? Noah Asensio, hello. Matt Barnes, hello. Non-Vitae Rex, hello. Keeverdam, hello. JMK, hello. Jaeger Pony, hello. Mike R, hello. Shane, hello. Zeke Weiss, hello. Swirl Blue, hello. And Alice Morgan, hello. Listen to the Read, hello. Who else is here? Emperor W.R. Costin, hello. Bridget, hello. Neon Leon, hello. Otho May, hello. Shell D, hello. Jonathan Peterson, hello. And I think that's everybody. If I missed anyone, this is Kyle, hello. I think that's everyone I see. And of course, by the time we get started, there'll probably be others who will pop in. But either way, tonight's bingo card is bingo card C. So get your bingo cards ready. Links are in the description. If you would like to join in on picking the bingo card each week for the TED Excellence, be sure to follow me on Twitter, because usually I remember to put up the poll a few hours before the show. Also, if you will direct your attention, for those of you watching on a browser or otherwise, to the top of the chat box, there are links there provided by Keeverdam. Thank you, Keeverdam. To our friend Shady Grin and his kitten, and there's GoFundMes there for them and or their loved ones. If you could take a look at those when you have a chance, and if you have a couple of bucks to spare, I know that they would appreciate it. So, with all of that as preamble, let's get into this. This clocks in at just over 16 minutes, so slightly longer than your regular TEDx. It was apparently recorded back in September of last year, although I think it was posted relatively recently. I think within the last month or so. I could be mistaken. But either way, it is an argument over whether or not masculinity is killing men. So let's find out how much of a lifespan I have left simply because of my genitalia. I'll start off with a few seconds for sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed. Okay, you hear the applause. We'll just use that as the test to begin with. Brad Young, hello. Anybody else that I missed in the meantime? Doesn't look like it, but hello. Let's see, JMK says 555. Well, either that means he can hear it just fine, or it's the beginning of a fake phone number from a movie or something. Listen to Reed says yes. Okay, again, ambiguous answers tell me almost nothing. Jaeger Pony says, hear it just fine. There we go. And Swirl Blue says, sounds good. There we go. All right. Well, here we go.
So I'm sitting alone in my car.
No, you're standing alone on a stage.
It's a warm summer night.
Oh, okay.
And I've probably been staring at my phone for like a little bit too long.
Okay.
The number that I've tapped into the screen is for the suicide hotline.
Oh, boy. Okay, so, I mean, as with the earlier TEDx this week, we start out with a non-funny, there's nothing to be made humor of, pretty sad story. Okay.
There's just one problem.
Yeah.
I can't bring myself to call.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm a man, not some princess. I shouldn't need to be rescued.
Okay. Well, I mean, not that I didn't already know or have an inkling of where this was going, but here we are.
So instead, an ex-girlfriend who owes me nothing is frantically calling up my friends, crying while she tries to save my life.
So you did call for help from your ex-girlfriend, who you obviously communicated with about what you were thinking about doing. So you did ask for help?
She really shouldn't have to be a part of this story, but because she loves me, she is. So I want you to keep her in mind. We're going to come back to her.
Okay. Now, I guess, I don't know. I don't know if the anecdote can count as self-vilification or wretchedness, and I'm a little iffy on taking advantage of someone's, self-elimination tale in that sense, so we'll wait and see what else he says over the course of the talk.
Maybe ironically at this stage in my life, I'm a success. I work with Fortune 500 brands. I deliver on project work with staggering massive price tags with too many zeros.
Uh-huh.
And every single day for 2.5 years, I wake up feeling numb and empty and alone.
Gosh, it's almost like money can't inherently buy you happiness or something. I've never heard of that lesson before.
Like I just can't stop drowning.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here today to tell you that the rate of male suicide is skyrocketing.
Yeah, why is that? Why is that exactly? I'm sure you have a theory. I have my own theory as to what might be contributing to some of it, but I wonder what your answer is.
Higher than it's ever been. I survived, I suppose.
You suppose? Well, I mean, otherwise you're looking and sounding pretty good for a corpse.
And what I learned might save the life of someone that you know.
Okay.
And in order to do that, we're going to take an unlikely journey where the first stop is baby aspirin. So by show of hands, who here has heard of the fact that if you have a baby aspirin, it can reduce your risk of having a stroke?
I've heard that, but I also know that too much aspirin and or ibuprofen or something can damage your kidneys, which is why I take Tylenol mostly. But I've heard that. I've heard it's a blood thinner, etc. I don't know if that science still holds up, but that's what I heard at one time.
A lot of hands. And I want you to keep those hands up if you know exactly what % difference that baby aspirin actually makes.
I'm guessing relatively minuscule. It's a baby aspirin.
Okay. Uncomfortable laughter, looks of confusion. That's pretty much where I was at with it as well.
Boy, I can't wait to hear where this is going.
So I started doing the research.
Uh-huh.
And for this particular study, what they found was if you give people an aspirin within 48 hours of them having symptoms of ischemic stroke, one of the most common types of stroke,
uh-huh,
for every 100 people that participate,
yeah,
one of them will be able to raise their hands and say, hey, that aspirin, it saved my life. And they won't have to go to the hospital. They won't have complications. They won't even have a follow-up stroke. And so even though that aspirin is arguably like 1% effective, I'm also going to argue that the reason why so many of you knew about that connection between aspirin and stroke is because that aspirin is a minor miracle.
Okay. So we've spent at least half of the first 3 minutes of this talk hearing about aspirin. I am very curious to know how he's going to connect this to anything.
It's a simple solution. Many of us have access to it. And the end result, when it works, is lives get saved and changed.
Yeah.
So what if there was an aspirin, but for suicide?
Okay. I'll bite. What is the aspirin? The possibly 1% coin flip life-saving thing for suicide.
So in 2019, the CDC estimated that there were 1.38 million suicide attempts in the United States alone for just that year. So that 1% would go a long way. But if we can accomplish what I think we can accomplish tonight, and you all seem like a pretty smart bunch, that seems pretty likely to me.
How they're just smart because we're going to accomplish this tonight. Boy, okay. I don't know that anything on the bingo card is actually clicked yet. Let's see. Plays victim. Leaves out vital context. Well, still waiting on that. Weightless example. Don't know yet. Anecdote that probably never happened. He's only given us one, and I can believe it. Benevolent condescension. Yeah, self-vilification. Again, I'm a little cagey on doing that for an anecdote about, we'll wait and see. Feminism, no. Childhood or family anecdote. Not yet, surprisingly enough. Privilege, no. A sales pitch for product or service. I mean, he did a pretty good job advertising for baby Tylenol or baby aspirin just then, but I'll let it pass for now. Microaggressions and conscious bias, no. Patriarchy, no. Wage gap, no. Mind reading assumes motives. That one I think we'll probably get for sure. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase, no. Word salad, not yet. Diversity, equity, inclusion, no. Marginalized, marginalization, possibly. Contradicts own point or argument, not yet. Systemic, institutional, if not specifically, I bet in aggregate we'll get there. A list, probably will get there. White supremacy, no. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason, i.e. a non sequitur, not yet. And collectivize his own demographic. If he says something like we as men or get something a bit more specific than that, then that'll be there. Okay.
Then the difference won't be 1%. It'll be 60 times that. But
whoa. You're okay. You're going to reduce suicide by 60% with what you have to say tonight. I cannot wait for this.
It'll be 60 times that.
Okay.
But since suicide starts in the mind, it's not really a pill that we need to swallow. It's more of a thought, an idea, and one that directly counteracts another one. And one place to begin to look is what thoughts then are causing men to kill themselves.
I don't know. Maybe that they're inherently flawed. That society and the media and all these pseudo-intellectuals out there saying that men are effectively broken women and that boys are effectively defective girls, and that what you like and your impulses and everything else is undesirable or toxic, let's say. I don't know. I mean, it is possibly one motive, isn't it? Or one reason? I don't know.
And if the research is to be believed, it all points to one very specific kind of stubborn thought, and that's, as a man, I need to blank.
I need to blank? Boy, we could have a whole lot of fun just coming up with random words to throw into there, couldn't we? Okay. Well, then tell me, what do you fill that blank with? Or what do you feel inclined to fill that blank with? I'd be curious.
As a man, I need to be strong.
Be strong. Okay. That's a bad notion or a negative impulse.
As a man, I need to be strong. I need to keep my word.
I need to keep my word. Okay, so strength, and I'm assuming it could be either strength of character, strength of will, maybe physical strength. I need to keep my word. Okay, so honesty and integrity. Okay, What other elements of as a man I need to constitutes a problem or a seed towards suicide?
To be strong, I need to keep my word, I need to have a magnificent mustache.
If you're not going to take your own talk seriously in this subject, I'm going to have a hard time doing it myself.
And I'm a little bit upset that I can't grow one.
That sounds like a you problem.
And as a man, I need to protect the people that I love. And that last one especially is a piece of masculinity that I love that exists.
Wait, okay. Now you got me confused. Did I mishear or misunderstand where this was starting out at? That he was going to list off the things that are, leading men to hurt themselves, and then he says he loves this one. But okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to go back a little bit. I want to make sure, because otherwise I'm circling contradicts own point or argument right now. So let me make sure I get this context right again. I apologize for the repeat. I just want to make sure.
What if there was an aspirin, but for suicide?
Uh-huh.
So in 2019, the CDC estimated that there were 1.38 million suicide attempts in the United States alone for just that year.
Attempts. Okay, I missed that part the first time.
So that 1% would go a long way.
Sure, okay.
But if we can accomplish what I think we can accomplish tonight, and y'all seem like a pretty smart bunch, that seems pretty likely to me, then the difference won't be 1%. It'll be 60 times that.
Right.
But since suicide starts in the mind, it's not really a pill that we need to swallow. It's more of a thought, an idea, and one that directly counteracts another one. And one place to begin to look is what thoughts then are causing men to kill themselves.
What thoughts are causing men to kill themselves?
And if the research is to be believed, it all points to one very specific kind of stubborn thought, and that's, as a man, I need to...
Okay, so thoughts that lead men to kill themselves. As a man, I need to be strong. As a man, I need to keep my word. As a man, I need to grow a mustache, and as a man, I need to protect the ones I love. Those are thoughts that lead men to kill themselves. I'm going to let him finish his little soliloquy here. Maybe that will be mitigated somehow, but if he then says, I love this one.
That last one especially is a piece of masculinity that I love that exists. I'm proud of that. But masculinity is more than just four ideas kind of mushed together. It's like this big, messy world of ideas that we hold together with like twine and glue and spit.
No. Those are your examples. Okay, you predicate that list, and I'm going to circle a list here because he just called them four. You predicate that list with the thoughts that lead men to kill themselves, and then you praise one and then say, but. Okay, let's go to the bingo card, because already I'm a little irritated with this argumentation. So just by default, I'm going to circle free space because why not? Circling a list, and also circling contradicts own point or argument. I'm inclined to circle word salad as well, just because that was all over the place. But I don't want to, double dip on the contradiction that I already circled for. So, all right. So far, free space, contradicts own point or argument, and a list. All right, go on.
Right. It's really complicated.
Yeah.
But to begin to understand what we're working with, we need to also unpack that. So what comes to mind for you when you hear the word masculine?
What comes to mind for me when I hear the word masculine? I guess, in control of one's emotions, not the absence of one's emotions, or perhaps And again, stereotype, but on average, again, physical strength, just because of, sexual dimorphism, if nothing else, an inclination towards constructive things, mechanical things, physical labor, combat and defense, fatherhood. Yeah, I mean, I understand it might seem sort of simple and basic, but that also comes into it, and protectiveness, provider. Well, those are words and concepts that come to mind when I think of masculinity.
And I want you to shout out your answers.
Oh, too late.
Proud, strong, good, yes. Stoic is a good one. Brave, leader, awesome. I'm looking for one more.
Toxic.
Protector, good. So basically, what you've given me is Batman, right? Like,
no. Most men, not exceptional in any particular way, and not to denigrate at all, but that's just men in general. Batman is a completely separate issue.
And maybe he has a beard too.
Bruce Wayne doesn't have a beard, unless he's posing as Matches Malone.
And this is perfect, right? This is an example of our cultural givens.
Cultural givens? Cultural givens. As in, those only apply to what? A single culture? Those haven't been exemplified across cultures throughout history in the differences between men and women and their roles one to another? I mean, sure, the expressions of them can vary culture to culture and civilization to civilization, but those words and descriptors aren't common across the planet? Really?
This is what we were raised to believe that a proper man should be.
So masculinity is a social construct, is what you're telling me. Oh, okay. All right.
And I don't know about you, but I was raised to believe that as a man, crying was kind of the ultimate act of shame.
No, I was not raised to think that. No. So, wrong.
I also grew up believing, as a corollary to that like emotions were just as bad. I understood that emotions were appropriate for like two demographics, the first of which was like schoolgirls, and then and the second one was womenfolk, which I was neither of those things, so I shouldn't have feelings, and began to push those away.
Sounds like a you problem. Yeah. Wow. Well, what a sexist. What a sexist you grew up as. Golly gee whiz.
But the thing is, the thing that they never really tell you about that is how, after a lifetime of practice, maybe one day eventually you succeed. And then you get to wish that you really hadn't.
What?
Because you'll have also succeeded at pushing away the thing that makes you human.
Again, that is a you problem. But okay, so men, okay, accepting his worldview as quote unquote truth for a second, then men on average are not human. Is that what you're telling me? Every man who killed himself in your little worldview was effectively not human? I wasn't sure, and I'm still slightly on the fence, but just about to fall off it. I wasn't sure if this was going to be another inside the speaker's mind performance, but I think that's where we're at right now.
What they don't tell you about that is, while you're pushing away crying, you also kind of begin to suppress the other emotions in your life, the happiness, the joy, and then one day you wake up and you realize your entire life has been about going through the motions.
Okay. Sorry for the continual pausing, but I can't help myself here. There are those amongst us, and perhaps you are one of them, who have uncontrollable and irrational emotional reactions to things, either in depression or anxiety, and so on. It's tough. It's no fun. Some people can find a way to manage it. Some people can't. Some people seek help for it, and the help works. Some people seek help, and the help doesn't really work. If you don't have any control over your emotions, it's a terrible place to be. All right. And so depression, anxiety, pretty bad. You might be a victim of those things outside of your own control. Now, I want to extend the benefit of the doubt here that our speaker's experiences aren't a failure of his abilities, of his willpower, but might be beyond his ability to control himself. And there's no shame in admitting to yourself and to anybody else that there is a section of your body, your brain, or otherwise that you do not have 100% control over. I spent the better part of my 20s into my 30s doing everything I could every day to manage my anxiety and to be a relatively productive person in spite of my anxiety. I came to see it as a battle I was fighting every day and took no small amount of pride in being able to maintain a job and relationships and activities in spite of the little demon inside of me. But it was not a fun time. And eventually I had to find help for it, and thankfully the help that I found helped out a lot. But I got lucky. But the thing that I learned overmuch as a result of this is the importance of having control over your emotions and when it is not appropriate for them to bubble to the surface. Because, the average person might have an instance here or there where they're overwhelmed and they lose it, or they're overwhelmed and they're able to. For myself, I was overwhelmed every single day. And so I had to work very hard in mundane circumstances not to freak out. And that machinery inside of me still exists. That's a whole other subject. But not hearing all his story yet, and we'll hear the rest of it, I want to extend him the possibility, or empathy, that what he experienced in the past and elsewise might be out of his control, and he's being too hard on himself for things a rational person wouldn't expect him to have control over. Regardless, that does not justify projecting onto all men a kind of flaw that you are having a problem with yourself.
It doesn't matter what you're doing. Whether you're riding a roller coaster or at a theme park or at a wedding, you can't feel anything, no matter how much you try.
It's okay. Speak for yourself. At least qualify what you are saying as being your experience, and not project this onto men writ large. That being said, I'm going to circle mind reading assumes motives, because if not already, then I think an aggregate going forward will be there. Let's see now. Childhood or family anecdote. He did talk about his youth. I'm going to wait a minute. I'm going to wait and see if he gives us a more specific story.
And while you're distracted with that thought, then one day maybe something really bad happens, something that you can't push away. And your emotions are screaming. It breaks you.
Yeah.
Those emotions, they want to come out, but they can't because you've gotten too good at this, at just pushing them down. And so instead, reality just starts to hurt. It hurts and it feels empty at the same time, and you don't know how to make that stop.
Okay, just as a thought experiment, every time he says you when talking about these things, just replace that word in your mind with I, because he's talking about him. He's talking about him. And I have a lot of sympathy and even empathy for him on some of the things he's talking about, because I've experienced them. But his interpretation of them, and again, his projection of them, doesn't help anybody, and I don't think it's helping him.
So as a man, you endure. You grit your teeth. You push through it because that's what you're supposed to do.
That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what I do, etc. I. Every you is an I. Yeah.
So I think what I'd like to do is kind of...
Okay. Now, are you pushing down your emotions right now, or are you managing them? Are you being conservative with your emotional outbursts because you have a task to complete, or are you pushing them down, trying to eliminate them? You're having nervous laughter. You're obviously delving into some deep personal stuff here. But you're doing that. It's you, not us, not necessarily. And the other thing is, you're not alone.
Create a little bit of levity here and just collective breath out if you've been holding it.
Okay, that's all for you. I'm fine, thanks.
I'm so grateful and lucky to have that chapter in my life over and done with.
Really? How so?
I think looking back, one of the scariest parts for me was seeing how at some point I got to a place where suicide just kind of made logical sense. Instead of all the pain that I was experiencing, I could just have no pain.
Yeah.
There was no drama to it.
Yeah.
And that for me was the most frightening part.
Can you entertain the possibility that your experience had to do with you and not to do with your gender? Possibly.
What I'm aiming to accomplish here today is to help people who are in that space find their way home, because I know how dark it can get.
By implicating men as inherently flawed because thoughts of strength, mustaches, and protection are what's fueling them towards killing themselves? You've already lost me.
And in order to do that, we need to turn to the research. So what does the research have to say about what's happening here?
I don't know. You tell me.
If we take a look, it all seems to boil down to actually something really simple, something easy to address, at least on paper. And it looks like this. It's a cycle with only 2 steps to it. And the first is a hard life event. And for a lot of guys, it might be divorce or losing a home, losing a job, going through a breakup, or losing a family member, or the physical health. Just something that hits us hard enough that we're forced to feel something, even if we're busy trying to push that away.
And this only happens to men. Hard life events are an exclusively male thing to deal with. Or, I guess the implication is hard life events are only effectively managed by women. Right?
And that very naturally leads us to a place of suppression.
Not naturally, not inherently. Suppression. Really? How about reflection? Or how about not freaking out and trying to manage it day by day instead of losing your mind over it? There's only one option. There are no other tools that men or people in general might use to try to work through a hard life event. Just suppression. That's it. Exclusively male. Okay.
As a man, I shouldn't have feelings.
Okay, stop it. Stop it. And I'm not even just talking about the projection here. I'm talking about for yourself. All right, stop making declarations that are absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how you were raised. I don't know what virtues were instilled in you as a child by your parents or your peers or otherwise, but you have to know how utterly ludicrous that sounds in real life. Or don't you?
So stuff them down. But if you're anything like me, then that also comes with this constellation of other behaviors. So it might look like you also stop sleeping. You start eating poorly, you stop working out, you self-isolate, you get into more fights, maybe you start drinking some more.
Or there's just a pandemic going on. I don't know. One of the two.
And
okay, you're talking about yourself. I know you're talking about yourself. Are you in a better place now? And I don't mean that in the final sense. I mean just mentally, emotionally. It sounds like not. I hope you are.
And the research is beginning to show that when you take on that kind of behavior, especially not asking for help, right? And that's a really commonplace one. Like, I don't know about you, but my personal game plan when I'm hurting is to notice the pain first and then ignore it really, 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 really hard and hope that eventually at some point it goes away.
Wow. How's that working out for you? I mean, you know, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I have to imagine if that's your true belief, or at least one time was, you did that a lot over your growing up. Do you see now that doesn't make any sense? Right? Okay. Where's the research on that? I mean, you put up one little pictogram and that constitutes the research. Anything else you'd like to offer up?
But when you do that, research shows that you also become more likely to fall ill or get injured or die as a complication. And if it doesn't happen to us, then it's liable to happen to someone that we know, that we care about, another male family member, a male friend. And
yes, because suppressing, pushing down your emotions, ignoring the harm or trauma that you're experiencing and trying to ignore it rather than dealing with it is a wholly male experience. It is not a human experience. It is just something men have to deal with. Just like the last talk, if you came out on stage and started talking about human experiences writ large, I'd probably have a heck of a lot less to say. But that's not what you're doing. You're saying that men are inherently flawed, men are inherently badly programmed. Yeah.
so you can see just how insidious this cycle is. We've just immediately gone back to the first stage, which draws us back into stage 2.
Uh-huh.
And research out of Fordham University is showing that for men who reject things like crying or being moody or having emotions at all, we're up to 2.5 times, roughly 2.5 times more likely to die by suicide, which is a pretty grim statistic. But for me, it kind of also represents the way forward. That's the ground that we have to gain.
Okay. So you mark all of this up to masculinity and not what are relatively common emotional and psychological issues, which can affect anybody. But masculinity is causing this. Thoughts of being strong, being a protector, keeping your word, and growing a mustache. I mean, those were your top 4 examples. Okay.
This is a clear bridge between emotional suppression and men killing themselves. And we're going to come back to that.
Oh, okay.
The thing that hurts the most, though, for me to know as a human is that it's not just affecting grown men, males between the ages of 10 and 24. This is the second leading cause of death for them.
And the only cause is simply being male. Okay.
I'm going to say that again because
you've got nothing except some ambiguous statistics, which you've already attributed causes to without actually showing any evidence of such or considering other possibilities. Okay.
bears repeating. And with statistics, it can be easy to kind of get lost in the numbers. There's no impact in that.
No. It's not easy to get lost in the numbers when you only give us two numbers and you expect us to fill in the gap of causation with our imagination or what you claim to be true. It's very simple. In fact, it's even simpler than actually thinking critically about it.
So instead, I want you to imagine that there is a 10-year-old boy, and he's on the playground, and he's got his friends running around screaming around him, but he's not participating because today is the day that he's chosen to die.
Oh, for crying out loud.
And if that hits you...
If that hits me, a 10-year-old contemplating suicide, I don't know. It doesn't really hit me. I mean, I'm a man. I don't feel emotions. I don't have any of those things. I don't empathize with people or experience any kind of sadness or compassion. You know, it's all just pressed down into a little ball that I never even go near. You know, if that hits me, why would that thought hit me? Why would it hit you? Why would it hit anybody in the audience that has a penis? If what you say is true. Oh, it was kind of poetic.
If what you feel right now is sadness and grief and loss or shock,
then I'm which is it? Am I a bad man as far as like I'm a defective man, or if I'm not feeling that, am I a fully functioning man? Which is it?
Anger, then know that that's the appropriate response. Because
that's the appropriate. Oh, okay. All right. So if I'm more like thinking about you using a cheap emotional trick to try to cover up for a good argument in your presentation, that'd be the unhealthy way to respond? Oh, okay.
Because that should have never been allowed to happen.
Uh-huh.
And it can be so easy to take a look at this situation and ask ourselves, who am I? Who am I in the face of this? 1.38 million suicide attempts every single year. What difference could I possibly make?
I don't know. What difference can I make? I mean, you have an answer for that, right? Okay. Where's that baby aspirin, that 1% to 60% mitigation rate that you were talking about?
But that, in my opinion, leaves room for the world's greatest answer.
Okay.
What difference can I make?
Yeah.
The difference I can make. And we only need to interrupt one part of this cycle to make that difference before it all falls apart. And the easiest, the most straightforward thing that we can do as a society is address that bit around suppression.
Okay, society, I'm going to take a systemic institutional. All right, so let's circle that just for the heck of it. We live in a society, backing up a little bit because I cut him off.
Forward thing that we can do as a society is address that bit around suppression. And what that can look like, some of you are not going to like.
You know, your nervous laughter is not a really good sales pitch, but okay, that bit around suppression, the suppression that you just know that's what men do as a natural course of business in masculinity. Okay, well, all right. You know what? I know for a fact there are people out there that suppress their emotions. Notice I said people, but okay. How do you solve for suppression in those people that do suppress, like you?
But when we're having a hard day, instead of popping on Netflix and binge watching shows until we pass out on the couch.
What if I like doing that? Oh, okay.
And start drooling.
Are you speaking from personal experience? Maybe
it looks like reluctantly picking up the phone, calling someone that we trust and saying, hey, today was really hard. It really hurt. I feel kind of alone right now, and I could really use someone to talk to about this.
Yeah, and I'll at least concede that sometimes that is a difficult thing to do, right? And I think I talked about this in the previous TEDx, and I won't go on any longer than I have to, but for those of you that didn't see it, when I was having anxiety issues, my rational mind knew more often than not that what I was freaking out about was ridiculous, was relatively insignificant. All right? The classic example being, I sent an email with an obvious spelling error, and now half of my brain is going insane, and the other half of my brain is going, what the hell are you doing? It's nothing. And so to call somebody up and try to explain to them that I'm freaking out over sending an email where there's a spelling error, my rational brain's like, there is absolutely no reason to burden another person with something so minuscule and ridiculous, right? And there really isn't. And so that would be the push and pull in myself most of the time. Now, that's just me speaking for myself, but I can also imagine that most of the time it's difficult, not just for men, but for people to look at their problems, whatever's bugging them in the day, and trying to say, do I really want to burden someone else with this relatively minor issue, something that I should be able to manage on my own? And that's really where the struggle is, because sometimes it really does help just to unload on someone willing to listen, even if it's something minuscule. So on this point, I don't necessarily disagree with him. If you're feeling overwhelmed, and especially if you're feeling overwhelmed to the point of self-destruction or self-harm, call someone. Even if the problem you think in your rational part of your brain is going, this is ridiculous, if the end result of that sensation is that you're in the mood to do something terrible to yourself, it doesn't matter how minuscule it might be on the temporal plane, it's important enough to unload on someone and with someone else's help. So there's my PSA for this episode.
And then we commit the cardinal sin of masculinity.
What is the cardinal sin of masculinity?
And we talk about our feelings. We talk about the things that we normally would never talk about.
Okay. Collectivizes own demographic. We. Do not speak for me. You do not represent all men. If you want to speak for yourself in order to reach out to other men or other people who may feel similar to you, that's perfectly fine. But you are not an example of all men. Your experience does not quantify for all men. Stop it.
Instead of pretending like we're fine. And it begins here with each and every one of you, with me, with us. It begins here so that the people in our lives can begin to unsuppress. They can begin to treat this like it's normal.
What, talking about our emotions? What, venting to one another? Yeah, because guys never talk to each other about what they're going through. They never take a minute with a friend and unload and vent. No, it never happens. It just doesn't happen. It's not a part of our makeup. I've never, ever had an easy time talking to a friend of mine about what life is doing right now, good, bad, or otherwise. It just doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Now, does that say that all men are willing to open up about their emotions? No. But stop talking in monolithic terms. Because one of the side effects of that, if there's a guy in the audience that feels like he's broken, and you say the cardinal sin of masculinity is talking about your emotions, and the guy thinks that, he's already broken, and he still can't bring himself to do it, and you're telling him that's the only cure, and he can't get past it because he's masculine, and he's a man, you think that helps or hinders anything? And your opening gambit still makes absolutely no sense. I have to be strong. I have to be a protector. I have to keep my word. I have to grow a mustache. I keep mentioning that one, even though it's ridiculous. And those are thoughts that lead men to kill themselves. You need to pick a lane and talk for yourself.
It begins here so that 10-year-old boy, he can do what he does best. And he can do as we do, not as we tell him to.
What?
It begins here so that we can look at every single dark statistic that I've given you here today.
You haven't given us more than about 2 statistics and one weird pictogram that you say constitutes reality for all men.
And say, this is the difference I can make.
Okay.
And in the beginning, we spoke of a girl.
In the beginning, we spoke of a girl. Oh, right. Your ex-girlfriend who was calling people on your behalf for help after you wouldn't call for help, but you obviously talked to her and told her how you were feeling, which is the cardinal sin for men, even though you... Yeah, okay, what about the girl?
It's time to bring her back into the story because there's something about emotions that's so important that we just haven't talked about yet.
Oh, is that everybody has them? Okay, what's so important about emotions? Because obviously, as a man, I don't understand the importance of emotions. I eliminate them as soon as I have any inkling towards them. I just toss it aside because, I'm a block of granite, and that's how men operate. Okay, what's important about emotions?
So she used to tell me that she loved me more than I would ever know.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sad to say that she was right.
Uh-huh.
I was so busy pushing away my emotions that I didn't have any room for hers.
Yeah. Self-hatred can do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's a particular operative word in that phrase. Self.
Especially not her love. So I didn't get it.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get it when she begged me not to leave.
Uh-huh.
I didn't get it when she cried with her hands shaking because she didn't want to be alone.
Okay.
And despite all of that, she still fought with everything that she had to make sure that I survived.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to take a step back from this too because I know how that sounds. And so for reassurances, she's doing great right now.
I didn't have any thoughts about how it sounds. Okay, I'm glad she's doing great. I'm maybe I missed something. What was I supposed to have assumed there for a second?
And she's living a very different life.
Uh-huh.
As part of that, she and I don't really talk anymore.
Uh-huh.
So this next part goes out to her as much as it goes out to each and every one of you.
Okay.
I'm so sorry for who I was, for the damage that caused.
Okay. Self-vilification or wretchedness. Even though I was reluctant, he was talking in the past about such things. Yeah, I don't think he's gotten past that vision of himself at this stage of the game, honestly. I don't take any pleasure or humor in circling that square, but it's just applicable.
And I'm so grateful for everything that you did.
Mm-hmm.
Because now I finally get it.
Okay.
I get how sometimes emotions can feel weak and brittle. They can make us feel vulnerable, and sometimes they're the last thing that I want to do.
Yes, keep focusing on the I part. Stop projecting on everybody else.
But I also get that sometimes, from 1,000 miles away, they give us a second shot at life. One that we could have never earned. And so today, I'm going to leave you with an invitation.
Okay.
I'm inviting you to give that same gift to the people in your life that you love.
I already do, and I already have. So hopefully they know that, and I've done my best to let them know that I am there if they need me, anytime, any place. So lesson learned. So thank you for that. Again, in spirit, I don't disagree. I'm just very confused by the motivations.
That minor miracle, that baby aspirin. I'm inviting you today for just a few moments.
Because as you know, most men don't do that, right? He's got to invite us Because otherwise we wouldn't have any inclination of helping out our friends, listening to somebody that needs an ear. No. He needs to give us permission, you see. Okay.
To stop thinking so much.
Oh.
And just to allow yourself to feel.
Uh-huh.
I'm inviting you.
Yes.
To allow yourselves to be human again.
Oh, fuck you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
No, fuck you. Big F you. No. Okay, everything else prior to this, I could kind of give you a little bit of leeway, because I could empathize. I mean, I've been in some way, shape, or form where you've been at different places in life. I think anybody listening to this could probably empathize with something of what you said of your experience to this point. But that last bit, go fuck yourself. Right there. Just no. Nope. Okay. Well, with all that, and I apologize for the blue language on the family show. Let's move on to the wonderful world of the bingo card. So I'm going to go over the bingo card once more by myself. And then if there are any squares left to be circled, and I'm sure there will be, I will entertain arguments for those. Plays victim. Yeah, because he attributed all of his problems to masculinity. And I know, I might seem like a cold-hearted jerk for somebody that just relayed to us a story of suicidal thoughts and so on. But he took that and expanded it into places that it didn't really belong, as far as I'm concerned. Leaves out vital context. Yeah, he gave us all these statistics. Supposedly, he threw out like a handful of numbers, and that was supposed to back up his argument. Like what? The suppression thing, like hard life event suppression. That's it. That's the only process. That's how men operate. Are you kidding me? No. Circling that one. Let's see. Weightless example. Yeah, I'm going to go back to. I don't mean to double dip. I'm going to go back to the. As a man, I need to be strong. As a man, I need to keep my word. As a man, I need to be a protector. None of that. And he didn't even circle back to it, really. None of that. The way that he framed it leads into or supports his argument. Anecdote that probably never happened. I don't have any reason to think that the primary anecdote that he gave us about his suicide attempt or thoughts or whatever else, and the resulting, ex-girlfriend intervening. I don't have any reason to think that didn't happen. It didn't sound like a perfectly crafted thing, and I think that was the only anecdote he ever really gave us. Everything else was a hypothetical. Imagine a 10-year-old on the playground. Yeah. Benevolent condescension. Yeah. I invite you to be human again. Yeah, whatever. Feminism. No, not explicitly. Childhood or family anecdote. Did he talk about his youth? Because when he's talking about his suicide, he's talking about like I'm sitting in a car and I was a successful businessman, etc. Did he ever mention his growing up? I thought. I don't know. I might need you guys to remind me if he did, because I know he talked about the hypothetical kid on the playground. He didn't say that was him. He was just. So privilege. No, he never talked about that. I mean, he talked about his success, but he didn't put it in the terms of privilege. Okay, sales pitch for product or service. It's the last square before a bingo, and I can't say that he was pitching baby aspirin, although he did put up a chart. He did take time out to talk about the benefits. You know what? No, he put up a chart. He talked about the statistics. He talked about the health benefits. Accurate to, urban legend or not. So, you know what? Yeah, that's a sales pitch for a product or a service.
Bingo. What? Of course!
That's a bingo. That's a bingo. All right. Bingo number 1. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. I mean, if I was being very generous to myself, I could say that his assumptions about men in general could constitute his unconscious bias, but it wasn't unconscious. It was very, very conscious. That might be a stretch, given the usual context for that. Patriarchy. It might be easy because he was talking about men and masculinity, but he didn't talk about the power struggle or the domination, etc. No, not. I mean, I could see how someone could make an argument, but I'll leave that for you guys if you have one. Wage gap. No, he never talked about economy. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. No, he never went into something I like to call or whatever else. And the whole fill in the blank thing, it didn't strike me as a buzzword or buzz phrase. Word salad. Yeah. And again, I don't mean to keep leaning on it, but beyond the weird, this is what you do as a man, and that's thoughts that will lead you to suicide. But also at the end there, be human again. Yeah. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. No, never talked about DEI or anything alluding to it. Marginalization. Not specifically, and I'd have to be reaching into the idea of, men marginalize themselves with their emotional suppression or something. So no. White supremacy. He never talked about race, so that doesn't even come up. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason, or a non sequitur. A non sequitur. Now I can't even lean into the as a man I blank as a non sequitur, because it did have something to do with his talk in a way, even though it didn't make any sense. It was about masculinity, so it wasn't a completely out of nowhere, had nothing to do with anything. The baby aspirin thing, I mean, I don't know if that's a non sequitur. It was a very, very bizarre compare and contrast to pick. I mean, it almost did. Is that effective? Is the baby aspirin thing effectively a non sequitur? Because, I mean, it was a tenuous connection at best. I don't know. I'll leave that for you guys. You think that was a non sequitur? Okay, so that's how the card looks at right now. We have one bingo on the board. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, please put them in the chat now. Be sure to tag me in your comments so I can see them more easily. I'll scroll up for a second here and see if I missed anything. Let's see. Elementity. Not a masculine specific issue. Huge fuck you. Yeah. Guy in his room. I hope that wasn't all to get that ex-girlfriend back. Maybe. Zeke Weiss, scribe, couldn't have said it better myself right there. Oh, yeah, the fuck you at the end, yeah. Let's see, pretty much. Zeke Weiss, do we have a make scribe cuss button? No. I mean, it's a family show, but it's PG-13 at best. Sometimes, just based on language. That's not the scribe I remember, says Thrashy. Well, sometimes certain individuals can push my buttons. What can I tell you? For better or worse. Guy in his room, I need to grow a mustache. Yeah. Keever Dam, like Beauty and the Beast. Who, me? Well, it all depends on the day and the mood, I guess. I can be both at the same time, one or the other. I don't know. Elementity, does girlfriend count as family? No, not in this instance. No. This is Kyle. All right, I'm heading out. Have a good one, everyone. Bye, Kyle. Have a good night. Let's see. And now moving down to the wonderful world. Tyr Alexander. Sorry, I should be promoting these comments. I apologize. Good sir, I do believe what is called a bingo, and a bingo was his name-o. Yep. B-I-N-G-O. Eric Peters, sorry I'm late, but I see you almost got 2 bingos. Almost. But welcome to the show regardless. God, ready, the one true God of all rats. Scribe-like patriarchy for talking about only men and their issues. Oh, as in he was de facto promoting the patriarchy? Ooh. Now that's a reversal. I kind of like that. Yeah. Men have all the. Oh, yeah. Okay. You know what? I like that as a novel argument. I like that. Okay. And it's not a bingo square, at least not yet. So, all right, you got me. Tier Alexander, so only one fuck you per show? Well, I already screwed that up just now, didn't I? Let's see. Keeverdam, when he said human again. Yeah, it was that was garbage. That was garbage. I mean, he alluded. Well, he didn't really allude to it, but he got close to saying that very same thing earlier in the talk, and I was like, don't. But then at the end, there was no ambiguity. Zeke Weiss, honestly, I cannot see much other squares that should be circled without stretching and reaching. Yeah, I mean, like I say, I could see the baby aspirin thing effectively being a non sequitur because it was such a bizarre and only very tangentially connected compare and contrast example. But even then, that's not going to get us a bingo. So, yeah, privilege. Yeah, no. And our anecdotes. Yeah, he only gave us really the one that was real, and anything hypothetical doesn't really count. So, yeah, I think that's it. Let's see. Alimentity, girlfriend, not family. Anecdote. K. Fair. Yeah, she's not family. And again, there was nothing glorified or too perfect about his story. I honestly believe that this guy has some issues he needs to deal with, and that he had some issues he had to deal with back then. I don't think his story was off base. It wasn't self-flattering. It wasn't Hollywood romantic in the way that it was presented or anything else. So I don't have any reason to doubt that he's gone through some pretty terrible stuff internally and emotionally. But as always, that's fine in the sense that, everybody has those experiences, and you dealing with it the way you did is, your issue. But then to lay that on or project that onto other people and to assume then that your experiences exemplify others, they may do so. But snapping judgments as to what masculinity means, there are plenty of men out there who are more than masculine who have never gone through what you've gone through. Just because either they're lucky or their brain chemistry is different or they were raised differently. It's got nothing. One has nothing to do with the other. Keeverdam, thank you so much. You're reminded of Beauty and the Beast when he said human again. At least, okay. Yeah, my Disney song memorization is probably strongest with Little Mermaid, just because I saw that so many times growing up because my sister loved it, and I think the soundtrack was played often in my house. So, I'm not going to break into song right now. I know you'd love it if I did. So I think that's where we're going to leave it off, everyone. So, yeah, again, a little bit different than our speaker on Monday. But he focused in on one particular subject more so than our speaker went all over the place on Monday. And once again, I realize it might be a bridge too far for some of our broken masculinity, toxic masculinity, the inherent sins of masculinity advocates out there. But I would love it, at least in the sense of intellectual honesty. I would love it if for once one of them would at least entertain the possibility that vilifying masculinity, telling men and boys that their inclinations, their likes, their instincts, etc., are a reflection of a broken person. I would love it if they would at least entertain the possibility that line of thinking being pushed upon children and young adults and grown men over and over again in the last several years, that might be fueling self-hatred, hopelessness, and suicide. Just a thought. I would just like that thought to enter their minds at least once before they start going off again and preaching about how masculinity is inherently bad. It'd be nice. Let's see. Godraddy says, Scribelight, and we could change the one I said to making it about sex rather than patriarchy fits better. No, I say so that square makes something about race, sex, etc. That's the race and sex things there. I really should just change that to, argumentative non sequitur, because that implies that those two are the ones to look out for, and that's not what it meant to be. I think I might edit that. That is a little confusing. So argumentative non sequitur, I might edit that too. So, but either way, doesn't really bring us to a bingo, so it's fine. You can circle it if you'd like. But everyone, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you again for joining me for this second edition in a theme week of masculinity and the attacks thereon. If you'd like to hear more from me, well, I'm here at least every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence. I also do a Sunday morning show called The Sunday Stream, where I look at stuff. Could be anything. Could be on education, could be on mental health, could be on corporate DEI programs. Who knows? Maybe an article that struck my fancy. We'll see. I don't really know until maybe Saturday as to what I'm going to do, so we'll find out together. But you can find me here at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on Sunday for that. And also another programming note, I had advertised that tonight's episode would be with a wingman of Sinatra Says. As life and Murphy's Law tends to have it, there was a scheduling conflict. But in the hopeful near future, Sinatra Says and I will take on Lily Singh, telling us about gender equity. Won't that be a joy? But until then, everyone, thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. You guys are the greatest audience in the world. Thank you so much for your attendance, your participation, your argumentation, and your generosity. I really do appreciate it. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. And with that, everyone, I hope you all have a good rest of your week. I hope you have a great weekend. Hope to see you on Sunday morning. But otherwise, I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.